Have you ever wished for a tool that just gets your brain? Something that could organize your chaos, help you through a shutdown, or even explain that awkward email reply for you? For many autistics and ADHDers, AI is becoming exactly that: a powerful accessibility tool, emotional support system, and a creative sidekick. But like any tool, it's not all sunshine and dopamine hits. Hi, I'm Essie. I'm an autistic and ADHD therapist. Today, we're diving deep into the real-world value of AI for neurodivergence, why some of us rely on it, how it's changing the game, and what ethical concerns we can't ignore. Let's talk about accessibility, not in a buzzword sense, but in the real day-to-day experience of what makes life livable for neurodivergence. If you're autistic, ADHD, or both, there's a good chance you've battled with executive dysfunction. Not occasionally, not just when you're tired or distracted, but as a chronic barrier to even the most basic tasks: getting started, switching gears, staying focused, remembering what you were doing before you checked your phone again. In a world that often measures worth by productivity, this structure can feel invisible, but deeply punishing. That's where AI can become a powerful ally. Let's start with task management. When your brain doesn't naturally organize information linearly, traditional to-do lists often feel like clutter instead of help. But AI can do something your average planner can't: collaborate with your brain. You can say, "Help me break this task down into smaller steps," and it will. Can you make this list more ADHD friendly? And it can. Need it turned into a checklist with time blocks, reminders, or a Pomodoro rhythm? Done. AI doesn't roll its eyes. It doesn't say, "You should know how to do this." It just helps. Then there's emotional regulation. I know this might sound surprising, but I've had clients who talk to AI when they're melting down, when the overwhelm is so high they can't think clearly, and they just need someone or something that won't judge them. AI can't replace therapy, but it can hold space. It can reflect, offer grounding techniques, validate your feelings, or even just respond with curiosity instead of criticism. Sometimes that's enough to help someone breathe again. And communication, wow. For folks with rejection sensitivity, slow processing, or just social anxiety that makes wording things feel like walking a tightrope, AI can help you draft difficult emails, write boundaries, or phrase something diplomatically without losing your authenticity. I've had autistic clients who use AI to help prepare for job interviews, role-playing responses, and practicing questions without fear of embarrassment. ADHDers who use it to reword a last-minute email to something that sounds calm and professional instead of scattered and apologetic. That's powerful. AI also excels at cognitive offloading. Ever tried to read a dense insurance policy or academic paper with your working memory already on fire? AI can summarize, simplify, explain like you're 5. It's like having a friendly, never annoyed translator for the world's most frustrating documents. Here's the core truth. For neurodivergence, using AI isn't about laziness, it's about scaffolding. It's about leveling the playing field in a society that was never built for us. So when I see neurodivergents using AI to navigate their day-to-day lives with less friction, more self-compassion, and fewer shutdowns, I don't see dependency. I see resourcefulness. I see accessibility in action. Let's get honest about something that often gets swept under the rug. Mental health crises don't wait for appointments. If you're neurodivergent, you've probably had moments where everything felt like too much. Your brain flooded with shame, panic, paralysis, or deep exhaustion, and no therapist, no friend, no support system was immediately available. And in that space, raw, dysregulated, and isolated, some people have started turning to AI. Now let's be clear, AI is not a therapist and could never really fill that role. It's not a substitute for trauma-informed human connection, But for many autistics and ADHDers, it can be a kind of emergency scaffolding, a pause button. When you're spiraling, maybe caught in a loop of catastrophic thinking or stuck under the weight of rejection sensitivity, AI can offer something a lot of people can't in that moment: calm presence, validation, and zero judgment. No raised eyebrows, no rushed advice, just tell me what's going on, and a gentle, steady presence, offering feedback, suggestions, and insights. That might not seem like much, but in the middle of a shutdown or a wave of rejection-sensitive dysphoria or a meltdown that's creeping in, those words can be a bridge back to self-regulation. Some folks use AI to explore coping strategies, generate lists of grounding techniques, even just to ask, what helped last time this happened, and see their own patterns reflected back. Of course, there are limits. AI can't offer human nuance or trauma-informed care. It can sometimes say weird or unhelpful things. And in a crisis of life-threatening proportions, it cannot replace real emergency support. But in the gray zones, where you're not in danger, but you are in distress, it can make the difference between spiraling deeper and beginning to come back online. Let's not forget that many neurodivergents have spent years being invalidated, being told they're too much, too sensitive, or just being dramatic. So when AI responds with validation instead of doubt, it's not just helpful, it can be healing. I'm not here to glorify AI, but I want us to recognize that for marginalized people who are often undersupported, often gaslit, and often alone in their distress, AI can be a meaningful backup support. Not because it's perfect, but because it's available. And sometimes available and non-judgmental is what we need most. Can we talk about fairness? The myth that everyone starts on a level playing field? The truth is, not everyone has the same time, energy, executive function, financial access, or social capital to do life the hard way. For neurodivergent folks, especially those who are undiagnosed, under-resourced, or burnt out, survival often looks like doing what works, not what's ideal. And AI, for many of us, it's become an equalizer, a behind-the-scenes form of advocacy that says, you don't have to prove your struggle to deserve support. Let me help. Because, let's be real, traditional systems often require a kind of functioning that assumes you can sit still, remember tasks, regulate emotions, write emails, follow complex processes, and stay on time. That's what I call neuronormative. AI doesn't ask you to prove you're struggling enough. It doesn't deny you help because you make eye contact or hold a job. It just assists without shame, without gatekeeping. I know some people who can't afford regular therapy who use AI to help track emotional patterns, reflect on triggers, or practice boundary scripts. I've worked with late diagnosed autistics who use AI to explain professional miscommunications they couldn't quite decode in the moment, and ADHDers who use it to plan their entire week in 10-minute hyperfocus bursts, and ADHDers who use it to plan their entire week. It might sound like convenience, but I think it's actually about accessibility in a world that often withholds it. And look, I know some people will say, well, I don't need that. I manage just fine without it. That's wonderful for them. But saying you don't need it so others shouldn't use it is like saying, I don't need glasses, so no one else should wear them either. It centers privilege and turns personal capacity into a moral standard. And let's not forget how many neurodivergents are doing the label of survival invisibly, masking, overfunctioning, burning out silently just to stay afloat. For those people, AI isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. It returns a bit of time, a bit of autonomy, a bit of breathing room that was taken by systems that don't accommodate how we process, feel, or function. So when someone says that's cheating or it's lazy to use AI, I want to gently ask, lazy compared to what? Compared to someone who's never had to fight their own brain just to send a text or remember to eat? Because if you've been made to feel like your natural way of existing is wrong, If you've been told your struggles aren't valid unless they look a certain way, then finding tools that help you function without having to beg for permission, that's revolutionary. When neurodivergent people are given tools that work with our brains, not against them, magic happens. Because here's something we don't say often enough. Neurodivergents are some of the most inventive, resourceful people out there, especially when we're not spending all our energy just trying to pass. And AI? It's enabling some of the most brilliant, creative, and practical applications I've ever seen. Let's start with mental health and therapy spaces. Therapists can use AI to generate reflection prompts and even emotional vocabulary lists to help clients name their experience, especially useful for folks with alexithymia or verbal processing delays. I've had clients who prepare for their therapy sessions using AI. They use it to write about their week, explore emotions, or even brainstorm what they want to bring into the room. When your thoughts feel like a tangled web, AI can help sort through them gently before you walk through the therapist's door. Then there's medical advocacy. We know that neurodivergents are often dismissed in medical settings, told it's just anxiety, or that we're overreacting, or worse, not believed at all. Some people now use AI to summarize medical research, simplify symptom explanations, or even generate scripts for how to advocate in appointments. That's truly empowering. Some neurodivergent creators are beginning to experiment with AI to build tools that better reflect how their minds work, not just how they are expected to function. That might mean using AI to reformat dense schedules into visual planners or prototype scripts that help us walk through moments of shutdown. Writers with executive dysfunction use AI to outline their novels or brainstorm plot twists without losing momentum. Artists use it to generate references, jumpstart ideas, or even structure a gallery pitch when words don't come easily. Imagine this. A neurodivergent poet writes an aching piece of verse. They feed it into an AI tool and ask, "Can you soften this to sound more like this poet?" What comes back isn't perfect, but it gives them a way forward, a way to stay with the story rather than shutting down or quitting. For ADHDers navigating the constant overwhelm of adult life, AI becomes a productivity partner. It can build a weekly schedule that honors their energy cycles, offers prompts when the blank page is terrifying, or help them jumpstart a task when initiation feels impossible. We're also seeing neurodivergents in the workplace use AI to reduce burnout. They're delegating rote tasks like rewriting emails, cleaning up reports, or formatting documents so their actual brain power can go toward creative problem solving or deeper connection. This promotes sustainability because we all know what happens when neurodivergents are forced to operate in systems that don't support them. Shutdown, burnout, shame spirals, and eventually complete disengagement. But when you give someone tools that honor the way they naturally think, feel, and create, they don't just survive, they start to thrive. So whether it's a grocery list that's finally ADHD proof, or a few written prompts that help you approach therapy with clarity, AI creates new possibilities. Okay, now that we've explored the many ways AI is supporting neurodivergence, we need to have a real talk about the other side of the coin. Because while AI can serve as a life-changing tool, it's not inherently good. Like any tool, it depends on how, when, and why it's used, and who controls it. Let's walk through some of the biggest ethical concerns, starting with one that's raised often. AI uses a lot of energy. A lot. Data centers powering large language models consume huge amounts of electricity and fresh water, resources that are already under pressure globally. For some users, this raises valid concerns. If we care about climate change and sustainability, how can we justify using something this resource intensive? It's a fair question, and it deserves real answers. But here's the thing. Many everyday tools we've accepted without question also rely heavily on AI. Google Search, YouTube, Facebook, even Netflix recommendations. AI is already baked into our infrastructure. Many of us are using it even when we think we're not. So maybe the question shouldn't be, should disabled or neurodivergent people stop using AI? Maybe it should be, how can we hold the tech industry accountable for building more sustainable systems without shaming marginalized people who need these tools to function and succeed? Because blaming the individual neurodivergent for using AI to cope is like blaming a wheelchair user for sidewalk erosion. It's misdirected. Another concern I hear is that using AI might make people dependent, that it weakens our memory, writing skills, or critical thinking. And again, there's truth to this. In educational spaces especially, some students are turning to AI instead of learning to process or create information themselves. But let's unpack this a little. First, over-reliance assumes that not using AI is neutral, and that's not always true. Many neurodivergents are already overwhelmed by inaccessible expectations. AI is less removing our skills than it is unlocking them. A person who uses AI to draft an email isn't incapable of writing. They're asking for scaffolding, just like a ramp supports a person with mobility issues. And let's not forget, neurotypical people outsource all the time. They hire editors, they use Grammarly, they watch YouTube tutorials. No one calls that a moral failing. So maybe instead of asking, will people get lazy? We should ask, how can we use AI as a tool for collaboration or improvement, not a crutch for avoidance? This one is absolutely critical to name. AI can get things very wrong confidently. It can hallucinate facts, citations, and even invent professional-sounding nonsense. That's dangerous, especially when people are using AI to look up medical information, plan their finances, or explore emotionally sensitive topics during a mental health crisis. So here's the boundary. AI should not be your doctor, your therapist, or your only source of truth. It's a brainstorm buddy, not an authority figure. And if you're using AI for emotional support, it's vital to also have real-world safety nets, crisis lines, community, or professionals who can step in when things go beyond what AI can handle. Neurodivergent users especially should be supported in building those parallel systems, not shamed for reaching for what's immediately available. Many artists, writers, and musicians feel that AI tools are stealing their work because most AI models are trained on huge swaths of publicly available content, including books, images, music, and artwork, often without consent. And they're right to be upset. Consent and credit matter. Compensation matters. And we need more regulation to protect original creators. But here's where it gets complex. Neurodivergents are also creators, and many of us are using AI to support our creativity, not replace it. For example, an autistic musician might use AI to help arrange chord progressions they're too burnt out to structure alone. An ADHDer might use it to outline a plot for a comic they've been dreaming about for years, but couldn't get started on due to executive dysfunction. There's a huge difference between stealing someone else's art and using a tool to amplify your own voice when your brain is working against you. The line is blurry, but it's not black and white. And neurodivergent users deserve to be part of that ethical conversation, not excluded from it. Some people will say using AI is unethical, full stop. End of story. And maybe that comes from a good place, a desire for justice, fairness, sustainability. But when those judgments get turned on marginalized users who are just trying to function, it becomes moral perfectionism. And let's be honest, neurodivergents are disproportionately harmed by that kind of thinking. We're already fighting internalized ableism, burnout, trauma, and systems that tell us we don't deserve help unless we look or behave a certain way. So when people start shaming us for using the only tool that finally makes life a little easier, that's not ethics, that's ableism dressed up as activism. So yes, let's keep having ethical conversations about AI. Let's demand transparency from the companies building it. Let's fight for consent, sustainability, and human rights. But let's also remember survival is not ethical, and tools that restore autonomy and reduce suffering should not be taken away from the people who need them most. So where does that leave us? AI isn't a savior, it's not a solution to all our problems, and it definitely isn't immune to harm. For many autistic and ADHD people, especially those navigating burnout, isolation, or systems that weren't built for our brains, it can be something powerful. It can be a flashlight in the fog when everything else is dark. It can remind us that we're not lazy or broken for needing help. It can return a sense of control when our thoughts spiral. It can reflect back our words with softness when our inner critic is screaming. It can offer support, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but immediately and without shame. And that matters, especially for neurodivergents who have been told again and again, you're too sensitive, you should be able to do this on your own, you're just not trying hard enough. Here's the truth. Needing help isn't a flaw, adapting isn't cheating, using the tools available to you to survive, especially in a world that rarely offers you grace, is not just valid, it's wise. Are there valid concerns with AI? Absolutely. And we should talk about them loudly. We should advocate for ethical development, transparent data practices, consent from creators, and environmental accountability. But those conversations should be aimed at the systems profiting from AI, not at the neurodivergents who are using it to get through the day. So if you're a neurodivergent using AI to build structure, regulate emotions, navigate burnout, or express your creativity when executive dysfunction has you frozen, I want you to know you are not unethical, you are not a fraud, you are doing what you need to do to function. And that's something to honor. Again, I'm not here to promote AI. I'm here to remind folks that neurodivergents are not using it to get ahead, but to survive, to access dignity, to finally have something that works with their brain instead of against it. So let's hold space for both, the caution and the hope, the critique and the celebration. So let's reframe the conversation. This isn't just about AI. It's about building a world where neurodivergents don't have to fight for basic support. We deserve tools that meet us where we are. We deserve systems that don't make us prove our worth. Because survival shouldn't require a workaround, and ease shouldn't feel like a luxury. If you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and share it with anyone you think might benefit from it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.